your bank, anybody use a banking app?
Yep.
Yep. Guess what? You're using cloud, my friend.
That way, when we talk to you as an owner and you say, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going, we can pull out our toolbox of things we've dealt with and the different verticals through our career and in our experience and say, yeah, this is the best toolbox for you based on what you're doing and how you're growing. We're going to be talking about the cloud. The cloud I'm going to take this from a little different perspective. I am an engineer. I've been an engineer for 34 years, and I've been doing this for a very long time. And the whole purpose of our podcast here that we do every other week is to kind of educate. And we're going to do this on a non-technical bias. So those of you who are technical, just bear with me. Today, I am going to be your cloud virtual travel agent. Okay. And I'm going to use we have, I was talking earlier about how we use all these abbreviations for things, but we're going to kind of look at the cloud as a virtual destination place. And the reason why is I think this model fits very well. A lot of people don't realize that they use the cloud every day. Right now, if you have a cell phone and you are using Apple or an Android cell phone, you are using, in some way, shape, or form, you're using part of the cloud. The cloud consists of destinations, which are services that we use, or data banks, or data services that either for storing or sharing data. There's services like SaaS or platforms, things that we do things with that perform services for us or on behalf of our companies. And the internet is the highway which interconnects all these things to us. It is that virtual travel way that acts as the conduit between all these pieces. It's a great way of thinking about it. It's kind of a virtual skywave destination, and that's a great way to look at the cloud. Now, a lot of the reasons people haven't really adapted cloud in small business is because people, one, they don't understand it. They don't understand what the real benefits of it are and how it can help their business. And the second thing is I hear this all the time from owners over the years is, oh, if I can't physically put my hands on it, I don't feel it's safe. I want to make sure I have control of it, that I know where it is at all times. And I can tell you that that's probably the worst thing security wise you should be worrying about right now in today's day and age, because the person that's worrying about that is probably the person that is greatest at risk. So, and I want you to think about this too. There's another analogy we can put to this, and that is the fact that not only do you have to think about in business in terms of business of different types of cloud and whether they help your business or not, and the internet being that conduit, but you also have to think about your connection to that conduit. In other words, your connection to the internet as your vehicle. Okay. You could have a Yugo or you could have a Porsche or a Toyota. And what I mean by that is if you're using, wireless to run your business internet off of it, at work, your reliability is probably not going to be too great. And the speed's not going to be all too well, or you're buying the cheapest bundle you can from your cable provider, as opposed to somebody who's using fiber and has a redundant connection to make sure they're up all the time. And they realize how important being up to their business is because their business functions. So today we're going to talk about like different types of cloud services and what they are and how they affect your business. We're going to actually give you some examples from our business. Our business is entirely 100% cloud-based. I'm talking about from the software we use to our file servers, to our servers themselves, to some of our desktop environment, and even our phone system. So there's nothing that physically exists at a single location. It all sits in the cloud. And as a result, it is all 100% up all the time. And that is one of the big benefits of the cloud is there's no way that you as a single business owner can match the investment in security, infrastructure, and reliability that these cloud providers have put into their platforms. That is a big misunderstanding that people have. I was actually vice president of a private data center here in Houston for 3 years. And I watched the budgets of these things coming in. I've actually physically been responsible for the hardware and the infrastructure and the security that goes into it, and the security audits that take care to make sure that your information is taken care of. Are there breaches that happen? Yes. Are the breaches that can happen to you as an individual? Yes. And right now the playing field is about even. There are actually more hackers going after people like you than there are going after the data centers, because the data centers take a more sophisticated tool set to go after than you do. And you're a lot easier to catch in a phishing or a social engineering platform than the guys at the data centers are. And the security precautions they've put up and the security that has been independently audited is much higher and much better. So you have to think about things like that. Not to mention they have redundancies that are put in place. I'll give you a good example. A typical data center where your information is hosted, and I'm going to just give you an instance for a small one, not one large like Google or Microsoft might have. This is just a small privately owned one in Houston. They have triple redundancy to the internet. What that means is they have their connection to the internet to provide services for yours to access to your stuff is triple redundant. That means they have 3 different carriers that act in conjunction, and they would have to lose connection from all 3 at the same time to be down. Their power is redundant and sits on 2 entirely different power grids. And in bigger operations, it sits on 3, or they even own their own infrastructure. And then they have backup generator infrastructure to back that up in real time. So when you start looking at all these redundancies and things in the class of hardware that they put this stuff on, the likelihood of your information being compromised or going down or having any kind of issue with it in the cloud are far less than it is happening within your own office by far. So I'm going to actually show you an example of what a cloud platform looks like in just a minute, but I want to talk about first different kinds of cloud. One, everybody's heard of Office 365, correct? Google Workspace. Those things are probably the 2 most common, what we call groupware applications you can use, where you get applications, you get your email, you're able to share things and do video and all those kind of things between your coworkers. All right. That is a cloud application and they've been around for a long time. Now, does anybody remember Microsoft's small business server?
Yes.
Okay. This is a product that was Microsoft's core product of the small business side. It would support up to, at the time, I think it was 75 employees, I think was the default setup, as many as 125. And it was an all-in-one server you would buy, license, put in, and it would kind of manage all those things that an office would need. Shares, security, networking within an environment. It gave you a little internet. It had an exchange, so it would do grouper and email. You realize Office 365 is the replacement of that in full now. Office 365 was built to be its replacement. It is a product that has been no longer available for a number of years. And now they use Azure, which is the kind of the online Active Directory part to manage that. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that today. I'm even going to show you the new Windows 365, which is where Microsoft is trying to take everybody they're trying to go to the point where now, instead of having desktops, having a work desktop physically at your place, your desktop is in the cloud and you access it from everywhere. And I'm going to show you an example of that today. And I'm going to tell you that exists now in a product that you can buy from Microsoft integrated with your Office 365 product for as little as $25 a month. And it's redundant, it's backed up, it is snapshotted, and your IT people set their policies to that, and you can scale resources depending on what you need. I have a very basic desktop for today's purposes to show you, but you can get it very well spec'd out. I have 8 gigs of RAM with a couple of processors and a 128 gig drive, which is just like a bare minimum setup. But what's nice about it is because it's integrated with Office 365, when I add employees, I simply add an employee, I license a desktop to them, and the moment they sign in, their Outlook, their OneDrive, their shares for Teams, all that stuff is already set up. It's already done. So for somebody like me to deploy and add people, it's very simple to do and very simple to add, and it's very cost effective because I don't have to go buy a device for that person. If that person has an iPad, if they have a computer at home, if they have whatever they're using to access, I don't have to buy a physical piece of hardware for them. I just have to make sure that my IT department provides access to that desktop. I also don't have to worry about that person installing crap on that desktop that doesn't belong there. So I, as an IT person, I have full control of that environment. If something happens to it, I could roll it back very quickly and make it available without it affecting the rest of my network. So really cool things to think about. And this is the direction that things are going. Things are going towards 100% cloud environment. Now, there's also other types of cloud. Now, who uses a CRM? Anybody use a CRM like HubSpot, Zoho? There's a lot of maybe. Anybody ever use Act?
I've supported all of them. I don't really use them myself.
Okay. So Act used to be an application you run on your desktop, and it would help manage your communication with your clients. It was CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. A HubSpot is a very popular one right now. Thrive is one. You guys see Thrive on Alignable all the time. We're a Thrive reseller. So Thrive is very popular for small businesses. We happen to embrace all of them, with the exception of, I'm not a very big fan of HubSpot because HubSpot will nickel and dime a small business to death. They come off saying they're free, but by the time you're done actually getting what you need, you will be paying a very pretty penny in the long run.
Well, Robert, just to make a comment there, they are free, but if you really want the protections, like the HIPAA controls and things like that, those aren't free.
Well,
Right,
they
so
also
all the
charge you
data
based
share.
on the number of clients you have too. So as you grow
Right.
and scale, things start costing money.
Right.
Yeah, those are things that when you're building an infrastructure on cloud, there's two reasons why you do it. One, it's very scalable and affordable. It saves you money in the long run. There's also what you have to look at though is how they charge you money. Do they charge you money for how many clients you have, or how large your database is, or how much storage you use? There's all sorts of factors, and this is why one of the reasons why, as a professional IT person, we recommend any business owner talk to a technical person like myself, somebody who does like virtual CTO services for businesses. So that way, when we talk to you as an owner and you say, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going, we can pull out our toolbox of things we've dealt with in the different verticals through our career and in our experience and say, yeah, this is the best toolbox for you based on what you're doing and how you're growing, how you're going to grow. And those are usually the things we look at. It's kind of like the reason you go to a doctor for, cancer instead of a mechanic, because that doctor is going to know how to fix you. The mechanic wouldn't have a clue. That's the same reason why you need to talk to technical people in your business. Too many people wing it and end up making very, very expensive mistakes that are hard and expensive to undo later. And so we're trying to help teach people about that so they can stop doing that and start looking at it from the front side. Carrie wrote in Keep. I'm not familiar with that one. I do know that there are a few others out there. Are you referring to a CRM there, Carrie? This was in the chat. There are many, many others, and there's Sugar CRM is out there. Everybody knows Salesforce is a pretty common, well-known name. NetSuite is another all-encompassing one, like Zoho, that does much more than customer relation management. It actually does accounting and a lot of other things. How many people use QuickBooks to run their business? Anybody? Nobody uses QuickBooks for their business accounting. QuickBooks Online
for clients.
Okay. What do you guys use? What do you guys use for your accounting for your business?
I use Sage.
Okay, Sage. Yep, that's a very common one. Anybody else want to volunteer one? Either way, I mean, we have an accountant, but we still use a software to do it. But most QuickBooks is probably by far the most popular for small businesses. The other thing to think about is VoIP, or voice over internet protocols, what that stands for, VoIP. How many of you actually have work phones? I mean, phones for your business?
I do.
Do you use a traditional line, or do you actually have something like Ring Central or Vonage or an online service?
Call Central.
Okay, Call Central, good one. Anybody else? Eric, or is it Eric? Eric, who do you use? Is it a landline?
Vonage.
Vonage, he said.
Internet protocol, voice over internet protocol, Vonage.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. There's a big advantage. We still have some people that use traditional phone systems. Like for instance, Xfinity, if you had a sales rep visit you, they would sell you 5 phone lines in a connection, and it does use VoIP, but it's locked into their system and it can't be taken out anywhere else. One of the reasons why VoIP is very important is because the actual place where the calls are received is in the cloud, which means it's always online, which means your phone will always get answered. This is something, I don't know about you guys, but in our business is mission critical. Hold on, let me let Leslie, let's see, got another person coming in. I don't know about your business, but it's mission critical that we answer our phones. We have phones come in for support. We have phones come in for sales, vendors, things like that, partners we work with. Answering our phones are critical. So us being able to take a call no matter where we're at is important. So we use a VoIP-based system for one reason. One, it's always online, regardless of whether there's a hurricane in my city and I'm not here. I can still answer my phone from wherever I'm at. And my phone system goes with me. So I am always able to service my clients. If you aren't using VoIP and it's something you consider, some people just use their mobile phone, and that's great. But do you want your personal mobile phone being the thing that everybody contacts you on? Some people like to have, like me, I like to have a degree of separation between my business and my personal life. I don't want my cell phone ringing off on Saturdays and Sundays because my clients happen to have them, unless I've given them to a client to have. I want to have some control over that. And with a VoIP type of phone system, that is another cloud-based application that will enable you to have that. So we've kind of talked about different types of cloud. So again, these are what I call destinations in the virtual landscape. Now, what you use as an internet connection is very important. This is that your connection to that highway. How many of you have fiber at your house or your location, or are familiar with what fiber is?
I know what fiber is. I don't have it.
Okay. Anybody have fiber or know what that is? Okay. So
Yeah,
how
I know
many
what it is,
people?
but I don't have it either.
Okay. How many people use their cable company to connect in, their home cable company? Like
I do.
Comcast, Xfinity, Spectrum, somebody like that, whoever your local.
Charter
Yeah.
cable, yeah, it is not fiber to the house,
Yep.
coax to the house.
Okay.
Yeah,
AT&T,
Comcast.
so AT&T Uverse, something like that. Okay. So one of the things to keep in mind is that your connection to your connection, both for your home, your business, especially for your business, and your connection to the internet for yourself are very vital. So I'll give you an instance. I work from home. I work from fiber. So I have a gig fiber connection. And in my neighborhood, I'm in a newer neighborhood. That is very common to have in a lot of newer neighborhoods. A lot of older neighborhoods, they're in the process of upgrading. Some people will use some of the new 5G stuff from Verizon, T-Mobile, and so on. There you go. And that's actually not bad depending on your signal. Some people can get some pretty good signal from that. What you're going to find out though is in the type of media is not as reliable. How many times do you notice slowdown periods or periods where it becomes spotty or kind of not very good? You may not have that problem, Eric. So my backup connection is a T-Mobile connection, like a 5G. And I've had to use it from time to time because they're doing construction around our neighborhood and they've actually cut our fiber. So that's the reason why I have it, is so I have a backup connection. And during those times, I've noticed that in the evenings when people are, and this is very true of cable connections, that the more people that are on it, the slower it gets. So towards the evenings when the kids are home from school and everybody's home using the internet and streaming, all of a sudden things start to pipe down quite a bit slower. Okay, that's very common. That's because those are what we call shared connections. If you have the ability to get fiber in your neighborhood, and believe it or not, a lot of neighborhoods do have fiber and it is very reasonable. My fiber costs me $70 a month, okay, for 1 gig fiber. Now, I'm not saying that to brag, but my internet connection for 5G is only is like $20 less. So it's a $20 difference between having a high reliability fiber connection over having a connection that's shared with everybody else and varies in speed. So when you're considering connections for your business, the reason why I bring this up is the preferred medium for a business connection is going to be fiber. Okay. If you do not have, and just so you know, and in case any of you guys want his information, I will share it after this. If you guys are interested in finding, this is no cost. We don't sell this. I don't make anything from it. Okay. I have a gentleman that brokers about $10 million in bandwidth a month, both on the commercial and and the retail side. And that's all he does. And basically, if I give him an address you want to look at, or I can put you in touch with him, you give him your address, he can tell you who has bandwidth parked on your curb and how much it costs from both the commercial and the retail side at no charge for you. He can tell you what contracts, the speeds they guarantee, and the whole thing, and he can do that in 10 minutes. So if you guys want his information and you're looking at getting a better connection for your area, just let me know and direct message me through Alignable. And just tell me you want that, and I'll forward you Justin's information. His name is Justin, and his company is called Consult IP. And that's all they do. They don't charge you for their services. He makes his money from the companies in which he does that for. But he has saved everybody I know money. Leslie, I see you got a hand up. What's going on, Leslie?
Yeah, in Baltimore City, Comcast is the only franchise internet provider. You can get the other ones like Verizon and T-Mobile on 5G, but there are no fiber optic providers in the city.
So I would still run it by him because there are commercial and retail channels to every provider. Like Comcast resells their connections to other providers to resell, and sometimes they are cheaper. I'll give you a good example. And one of my clients, AT&T, was selling a fiber line to them for $1,200 a month. This was in a commercial building here in Houston. When I gave that address to Justin, he found there were 4 other providers that peer with AT&T selling. In other words, they're reselling AT&T's connection, that they resold that same connection to them for $180 a month. The very same connection. And it's on AT&T's infrastructure because it's wholesale. So there are wholesale and retail channels to all connectivity. I would highly suggest that if you're interested and you're not happy with what you have, message me. I'll send you his information. It couldn't hurt to, he's not going to share it with anybody. What he's going to do is put your address in a program that he has, and it will instantly come up and tell him who and what is parked there. You're right. There may be nothing, but if there is, then you'll have that information and be able to act on it. All right. So we're going to go back. I'm going to show you guys some examples, and I usually do PowerPoints and things like this, but I wanted this to be a little more of an open, kind of an open discussion today, because cloud is something that a lot of people kind of have just some really mixed conceptions about. So let me go ahead and share out my main screen here. For those of you, is there anybody that actually has an actual office server, like a physical server in their building?
Negative.
Who said that?
Eric.
Eric? Okay. So what does it do? Do you just use it for the sake of sharing files and keeping your stuff centralized?
Actually, I'm prehistoric. I just use a computer and Wi-Fi.
Okay. So let me show you something that most people don't realize. So within Office 365, and I'm going to open up a screen here. So this is my Office 365. And I have an admin screen with my users here and everything like that and what's allocated to them. Most people don't realize within Office 365, every user gets a terabyte of cloud drive, personal cloud drive. That means when I open up my thing, all these desktop, download, pictures, all this stuff is mapped to my cloud drive, and I have a terabyte of shared drive. That means that even though there's a copy here on my computer, it stores it off into the cloud, which means that I have other computers, like I have a laptop, for instance, that's connected to this account. I can see that information on a laptop. I also have a cloud desktop. So to give you an idea, this is my personal drives, but here's my company one with those same folders. Now, if I was to go over and look at my cloud desktop, which I told you that I do have, I have a cloud desktop running in a browser right here. This is actually a cloud desktop, a whole computer running entirely in the cloud. You can see it's got a different start menu. And you can see here is my same exact directory right here. And I don't have to transfer anything. Everything is there and accessible and secure. And I can even see my team drives here. I can open up my Outlook here is pre-configured and already running. this is all part of this new Microsoft desktop platform. This is where they're steering everybody towards is cloud-based desktops. And I'm running this in a browser tab. As you can see, I can pull this out and separate it. I can also force it into a full screen if I wish to. I can get my toolbar back here. There we go. And I can force that out and have it take over my entire screen, just like that. And now I'm using it as if I was my desktop. It shares my printers. It has access to everything I do. I can see Teams if I want to. I can see my Teams, my team drives, all that kind of stuff. It even shares my camera, my audio, everything. So it uses my mic, puts out through my speakers. I can use this from anywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm on a cruise ship, if I'm on my laptop, if I'm on an iPad, it looks entirely the same. I could leave this open, close out of it, come back to it, it'll be exactly where I left it. So if I'm in the middle of a bunch of work and I got to go home at the office, I can go home, pick it up from my desktop at home and pick up right where I left off without losing a beat. And it's all encrypted and secured and in that environment. Leslie, I got you there, and do me a favor. I will get with you on that, Leslie, and send you Justin's information afterwards. His name is Justin Shook. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring and collapse this back down again. I'm going to have fun trying to do the two between the two. So now I'm back within a browser. How this looks, this is, if you guys are interested in learning about this, if you go to windows365.com and you sign in with your Office account, you can actually license desktops. And these cost as little as $25. This is my configuration. You can assign them to people in your organization. This is a really neat way. If you have a business, new business, looking to expand a business, it's a really great way to have your entire environment 100% cloud-based and backed up and running and easy to manage. So very great way of doing stuff. We talked about CRM systems and where the advantage is. This is our CRM system. Most CRMs, when you look at them, look something like this. So I'll go back to a standard view. This is a custom view we did, where you have information like this, and it shows you their address, their account information, and things like this. And what we've done is we like Zoho because it allows us to kind of customize our views and turn it into an actual application the way we work. So we've created custom views to bring the information that we deem useful right up here. And what's really nice about this is it allows us to see, it integrates with Office 365. I can see all my emails to this client. I can see their invoices. I can even see their subscriptions. If they've requested help from us, I can see that here, or I can initiate a new service ticket from here. And it keeps everything in one nice, tidy little place. So if I need to go and find something about my client, it's all right here. Systems like this license for around $40 an employee per month and include a slew of applications. It's like Word. There's more than you can probably use. We use probably 16 of the 43 applications. There's a huge tool set for a company, and what you basically do is pick the tools that you need, and they're fully integrated. Everything from campaigns, billing, help desk, all that's here. We can even chat with people from our website right here and see people that are visiting in real time and chat with them. There's all sorts of things we can do integrated within products like this. We even have our training program for our cybersecurity training is fully integrated in here, and we control it and manage it through this, and it integrates with our CRM as well. And you can see we have two courses here, one for business right here and another for families. So we actually have this one place that allows us to manage everything. And this talks to QuickBooks. So when I tell you that our organization is 100% cloud-based, from Office 365 to our desktops to our cloud drive, and if I want to access my files on my computer, just like with a server, they are right here. I can access them right here. These are my general share files right here for the company, and my marketing shares with my marketing team that happens to include some external contractors, so we can share information and we can send information back and forth to each other. I don't have to buy separate Dropbox accounts. I don't have to go do all that kind of stuff. So a lot of this stuff if you are using Office 365, it's already included in your subscription. You're already paying for it. The problem is that most people don't know how to configure it and use it. And what's really neat about this is that these things include versioning and archiving for compliance. So for instance, let's say I make a change to a Word document and I need to go back and fix it. I can right click and I can revert back to that prior version with a mouse click. I don't have to go ask my IT guy to restore it from a backup. If I have access to that drive and I have the permissions to do it, I can actually go back to a prior version and access what was changed without a fuss. So these are things that are built into an Office 365 platform and can be managed. You know, most people have seen this as your base Office 365. You have Word, Teams, everything that works through a browser. But in these admin screens, you can define who has permission to what. Basic accounts, accounts that include applications. I have access to Microsoft Visio and a desktop. We use it for testing purposes. So this allows us to access tools like this, full-on desktops. And if I close this and come back to it, it'll be exactly where I left off. So the reason why I'm showing you these things is I want you to understand that these tools, it is entirely possible for a business to be entirely 100% in the cloud nowadays without, and it's usually something that is already, it's already in what they're paying for. Even if you're paying for Google Workspace, that is a lot of the functionality we discussed is in Google Workspace. So I was talking about Office 365 a minute ago. Even the basic membership for Office 365 includes 1 terabyte of personal drive space for each user, and it includes a 1 terabyte of shared company space in the cloud, what we call share or team drives. And so you can have that virtual file server. And this is where the money saving comes in. You no longer have to buy physical hardware, Eric, to put your stuff on a server. No longer have to pay people to back it up or manage it. You no longer have to buy operating systems for those servers. We actually did a cost comparison for Chase Bank during a webinar. We had some guys from the SBA division that actually worked with the SBA to get funding for new businesses. And we were showing them how they could save an average for a 10-person employee, an average of $25,000 to $30,000 in capital. Instead of investing money in hardware and software, they could take that money and they could put it back. They could use it to grow their business or buy other things that were more important to their business growing than hardware. Our job as IT people now, or at least I see our job, is not only to keep you guys safe and secure, but get you out of the hardware business. What you really need is stuff that you need technology to work for you in a way that scales with your business, costs you the very least amount of money to do it, but also provides the security net and the safety net that you need for compliance and to keep you out of trouble with cybersecurity. So those are the kind of things we focus towards. And it's not if you look at a lot of these IT companies, I can't tell you, and I still do it. I was at 2 companies last week, 2 brand new companies went in, and they still got servers. They're still paying somebody $1,500 a month to go in and manage a server and 20 workstations. And I'm just like, okay, why? What's your server doing? And this guy happens to have a proprietary application that he needs a server for. So I said, let's do this. Let's move this here. You're already paying for it. Let's move all your file sharing stuff off into the cloud. Make sure that stuff is, so it's not taking up load on your server anymore. That way, if your building goes up in fire, you still have a copy of everything. And this is things that people don't realize too, is that if you're in a business that has PIP, HIPAA, or PCI compliance, you are required to keep offsite copies of backups. Do you know that? Most people do not know that, especially if you're working with personal or HIPAA required information. In fact, it's part of the law. Yeah, you got to have offsite backup. And if you get caught, if you get audited and you don't have it, it's some hefty fines. It really is. And it's a fine by record, by every violation. So if you got 5,000 customer records and you're not compliant in that way, it could be a 6-figure fine. I wish I was making this stuff up, but I'm not. So very important to be aware of not just of what technology can do for your business. Cloud is it's one of those things that people have. It's kind of like cybersecurity. I see cybersecurity. Ooh, I'm not sure what that means. Cloud was the same way a while ago.
But if you're using iCloud on your Apple phone, if you're using Google to manage your Android phone or your tablet, then you're using cloud every day. If you're using YouTube TV, you're using cloud. If you're using YouTube or TikTok or Facebook, you're using a cloud-based application. Okay? These things are all cloud-based things. They're basically assets that sit in the internet on servers, and you are using the internet as the highway to access them. That's the definition of cloud right there. Okay? And you use it every day in your life. Your bank, anybody use a banking app?
Yep.
Yep. Guess what? You're using cloud, my friend.
Yep.
Yeah. So all those things, all these things that people think about cloud not being safe, it is actually much safer than you trying to do it on your own, because the investment they're putting into that infrastructure to keep your data safe, I can guarantee you, is 10,000 times what you're able to do on your own. And that's what a lot of people don't see. In fact, one of the most telling things is when we were at the data center, was I VP of the data centers? We used to take people on a tour of the data center. We used to bring them into that room, a whole floor that was 65 degrees with redundant air conditioning blowing everywhere, noisy racks. I mean, just lines of racks, and you go in there and it's very impressive. You got to go through facial recognition. You got to use a license to hand it over when you go in there. You got to be escorted by a person of the property, the HIPAA requirements. You got to be escorted by an employee. You have to turn in an ID. And to go on site into that server room escorted. Okay. But you don't realize that these people are running tons of air conditioning, redundant power, generators. When you see all this infrastructure and money that is put behind what powers our everyday lives, it's awe shaking. Has anybody ever seen, I dare you to go on YouTube, and I want you to try this just so for your own information over the next week. Go on to YouTube and do a lookup of just do a general term on YouTube and say something like, how is a Microsoft or inside a Microsoft data center, or inside a Google data center? The investment they've done in stuff is amazing. So to give you an idea, Microsoft now builds their infrastructure inside of containers. You guys have seen train containers, right? Shipping containers, the big ones that go on ships. They build their racks inside shipping containers and that already are pre-plumbed with water or cooling. All the networking and infrastructure in the racks are there, and they literally stack them on top of each other and plug them into water lines and power and internet. And so the inside of their data centers are just stacks of these shipping containers. And whenever they had to add capacity, they just bring in more shipping containers. And it's like a Lego. Just snap it in, boom, more, snap it in, more. And that's how they do it. That's the investment that these companies have in it. And it's not just one. We're talking about Microsoft has something like 171 data centers like this worldwide. It's crazy. It's huge amounts of money. So
Farm it.
I'm sorry?
They farm it. I've seen, like they like out in West Virginia, and there's a big debate over it, where they farm this land and they put those containers on like 1.5 miles of land, and it's amazing if you see how large this thing is.
Well, they're getting smart now too. They're putting them in cooler environments. They're putting stuff in like Alaska and Canada where the environments are cooler because of the heat that it creates, and they're using thermodynamics to cool, to save on the air conditioning and to be a little more carbon neutral. So pretty amazing. Some of the stuff I see someone Shirley posted a YouTube video up there. Shirley, was that one of those, was that a video to one of those things? They are really amazing when you go to see the money and the time and the thought and engineering that goes into these things. Google actually put one under in the San Francisco Bay once. Did you guys know that? They actually put an underwater one in the San Francisco Bay for a limited time. I think they pulled it up, but they did it for about 3 years to try it.
Yeah, well, a number of them are going underground anyway. When we were doing work for government contractors, they have a thing called FedRAMP. Now, FedRAMP is really high security. So they bury the data centers underground So even if there's a nuclear attack, they shouldn't be disrupted. And no one that's not American, that doesn't pass a security clearance, can work there. All the equipment must be destroyed on site. So the drives are either shredded and everything. So it's a different beast when you look at running these data centers now, especially for compliance.
If any of you guys, a lot of you guys, I don't know, some of your small business owners, some of your consultants, I don't know what your line of work is, but I can tell you this, that so AIO specializes in what we call the micro and small business market. In other words, we work with companies that are, a lot of our companies are 25 employees or less. Average size of our company that we work with is between 5 and 10 employees, some as many as 2. And the reason why I do that is because this is an underserved market. When you go to an IT and like a managed service provider and you tell them you want help, they usually tell you you're too small for them. We don't care. We don't care if you're one person. We have a lawyer we help out now on the West Coast that's just one guy that's suffered some cyber attacks, and we're helping get him back on track. I can tell you that to us, this is our market. This is what we like. If you are using one of these services, like Office 365, you want to find out how you can do it better. I'm going to give you a very neat example for an attorney or a financial company works the same model. You guys have HIPAA laws that comply to you about who can see what when you're working on things. Okay. In other words, only the people pertinent to those cases or those projects are supposed to have access to those things. Not everybody, just certain people. So we use Teams to do that. We use Microsoft Teams to set up case specific or project specific files. We put only the people that are supposed to be working on those projects within those projects. And in doing that, it creates team shareable drives for those projects. It creates chat and communication channels for those projects, meeting channels for those projects, note boards for those projects. And it allows a team to interact and collaborate together with that and stay within those HIPAA compliances. And it's easy to manage. And once you get trained on how to do it, in other words, once you do your first 1 or 2, this is something you can do yourself. You don't have to pay an IT guy to do it. What we do is we set up a template for you that allows you to instantly use that template to recreate it over and over again. And then that enables you to be able to scale your business as you go and stay in compliance. We set up, like, there's compliance rules. For instance, you're not supposed to be deleting any emails for 7 years. You have to keep 7 years worth of emails. If you delete them from your system, you ever get sued and they conduct e-discovery and find you've purposely removed emails from your system within that time, that could be destruction of evidence. So we configure the systems to archive things properly. If you delete it from the system, you won't see it, but it goes into archiving within Microsoft system. So if you ever do get sued, you are in compliance. You don't have to worry about those things. So those are the kind of things we look at as a company. We worry about for you to make sure that you meet compliances. And that's what every IT company should be doing. But there's a lot of people out there doing IT that I like to call pretend players. They know a little bit. They've had some experience. They get out there and they do some things, and they end up usually getting themselves and their clients into some trouble. So make sure if you do have an IT guy, make sure they know what they're doing. Anyway, we talked about a lot of things, and I want to try and keep to our time limit. We've got about 10 minutes before the end of this, and I know we've thrown out a lot of things. I kind of threw a little bit of a twist on this by using this virtual destination thing, but a lot of people had a hard time understanding, at least in non-technical people, what the cloud is. And if you think about it as destinations, the internet is that connection, that highway to those destinations, then all you need to understand is that as long as you have the right type of vehicle, in other words, connections to keep those things up to your cloud services and maintain them. Like, for instance, if you have a business that needs to be online 24/7, then you should have a redundant internet connection. That means you should have 2 internet connections through 2 different providers that in case one fails, it goes back to the other. So that way you're always up. You're always able to conduct business. And there's configurations like that. We do that all the time for people. There's products like SD-WAN now that do that and actually balance the 2 together. So if one does go out, the whole purpose is if one goes out, you never know it. You have to lose both in order for them to go down and for you to lose your ability to work. For me and my business, I have to have that because I have to be online all the time to do what I do. I work almost entirely remotely. And even when I'm in the office, a lot of the assets we work from are remote. So, and we deal with people in 48 states. So having that ability to communicate and be able to work with them remotely, I have to have it. It's an absolute must. And for most of you, how many of you can conduct business right now without the internet? Raise your hand if you can actually function as a business without the internet. I bet you nobody can in this room. And this is why you have to think about these things a little bit differently. Everybody thinks of it like like a want or the bare minimum. You got to think of it as it's like your car. Okay. How many of you are going to go out and buy a Yugo with the tires falling off? You're not. You're not going to buy a 10-year-old used car with the tires falling off. You're probably going to want a Honda or a Toyota that's been certified, or you want something you know is going to get you from A to B. You're going to change the oil. You're going to put the tires on. You're going to change the brakes. You're going to take care of it so you get from point A to point B. Well, guess what? Your technology is the same way. Okay. If you take care of your technology, you plan it right, you put the right foundation in, and you take care of it, it will take care of you. And that is what cloud does for you. Cloud is an infrastructure that if you do it right from the get-go, can save you a ton of money, and it will make your business more scalable than you can ever imagine.
I'd like to add something to that, Robert. I've been using 365 since 2013. And the nice thing about it was prior to that, I would have to go out and buy licenses for the Office suite.
Mhm.
Right. So I've been working with Office since I guess about 95, back when it was just Office. Then it became Office 97, then Office 98. And every time there was a refresh, you had to buy licenses. And when I went in 2013, I said, okay, let me make the investment. They gave me, I think at that time, they only gave you 3 licenses, which was still cheaper than buying the pack. And you pay it per year. Right. But if I bought the licenses and I bought the product, that was like $300 and some dollars, but I paid $100. And when 2016 came in and it needed to be rolled up, it was automatic roll up. It was still just $100, but it gave me that 1 terabyte so I could keep my data there. I didn't have to worry about my data being lost, my server going down, someone patching my server, the security being put in place, the network connection working, and having to call the ISP. Right, all that was working, and and I also have a phone, so if worse comes to worse, I can access that via my phone to access any of my data or my applications that are up there. So and what people don't realize, because I've been in the data center business for a long time, right? I worked at a company where we had over 5,000 servers, and just the refreshes every year was very expensive. But having to get rid of that equipment legally, recycling computers now is
it's a whole
expensive.
business. Yeah, it's a whole business.
Expensive. Yeah. No, but I mean, you have to pay someone to take them away, make sure that they're certified not to have any data or sensitive data on them, right?
You have to certify destruction of the data. Yep. And he's absolutely right. There's businesses that do just that here in Houston.
Yeah. Right. So, when you start to take a look, I don't really like to call it the cloud. I call it utility computing, because what I do is I go out and buy what portion I need. And if you use services, when you need more, it's there for you. You don't have to call somebody up, CW, one of the big companies, and say, I need more drives, or I need more memory, or I need, you can make it scalable and growable on demand for your business. And then when you need to shrink it down, you can. And even like you were talking about somebody having an application that they had to keep in house, they really don't have to, because they can buy the space on Azure or Google. Right.
That is true. You got to have an IT company that knows how. You have to have somebody who has some Azure certification, know what they're doing with that. And not a lot of small IT companies do. But that's where you run into a little bit of the knowledge gap. Like we do. We actually manage stuff like that for people. But there's a lot of smaller places that deal with it. I can name half a dozen off the top of my head here in Houston that manage business networks that shouldn't even be trying Azure.
Yeah, no, but the other thing to think of as a business person, if you are using utility computing, that's an expense, and you get to write that off every month.
I didn't even think about talking about that, but you're right. This type of expense it is a fully 100% tax deductible service as opposed to buying infrastructure. Yep.
Right, which is you got to capitalize. It was 5 years, but I think they're down to 3 years. But for 2 years, your money's tied up in infrastructure,
Mhm.
right? This way, you need to grow it, you grow it. You need less, there, like I said, the big guys now have containers, right? So I can just put an application out there, I spin it up, and then I can spin it down. So if I have a periodic business, like we only do work quarterly, or I'm an accountant and I really need a lot in the first quarter of the year to do taxes, and then I can spin it down after April 15th. There's a lot of flexibility there that you don't have
That
when you
is a
have to put
great
it.
that's a great example, Ernest, because you can do that with Office. You could have 20 accounts in this tax season, and we got accountants to do this, and they'll have them
Right.
turned up, but they'll turn them off during the non-season and then just turn them back on without having to reset them up again. They just turn them off and on demand as
Yeah,
they
you
need them,
disable
pay
and
for them as they
re-enable.
use them.
Yep. Yeah. No, so I mean, from a cost perspective, especially for small businesses, it's
Yeah.
really a win, because you used to have to buy all this infrastructure, right? I mean, you had to buy a big enough server so that you'd grow into it in 3 years or 5 years. Now you
For
can
those
only
of you who
get
don't
what
know
you
who
need.
Ernest is, Ernest does a lot. He co-hosts with us. He actually did a session last week about planning and making a cybersecurity plan. The recording's up on the group for those of you who missed it. Some good information there. But Ernest goes to and thank you for contributing so much, Ernest. I really appreciate you being a part of that
Sure.
group.
Glad to help the small business owner, because it's really tough. You don't have enough information.
Yep.
And that's one of the real benefits for the cloud providers, as you call it, right? They know when there's a tax and things like that. And if they shut it down for one, they shut it down for everybody. Whereas if you have your own IT guy, you got to hope that he's reading the journals and he's getting alerts and something's happening.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is infrastructure. And this, I didn't even talk about this, but the infrastructure is monitored by professionals, okay? 24/7. This isn't like your server sitting in a room and nobody's watching it. And you have to worry about whether it's getting too hot in that room, or maybe it's sitting in a closet that's becoming a sauna because the power went out. This is in a fully managed environment, managed by professionals that do what they do, and they monitor these things 24/7. So that's another factor, another piece of mind that a lot of people don't really put value on, and you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pay your monthly.
Any questions? I know we've thrown a lot of stuff out here. We've talked about different types of services. Anybody have any questions?
I'm pretty much a one-person virtual office. I have people that work for me, but they're like independents and they're not employees. But I still see the technological advantages of using cloud-based technologies, QuickBooks. I used to use QuickBooks, by the way, before the cloud. But I'm so small, I always felt like, well, I really don't need to, do that, because I use Square and it pretty much calculates everything for me. And, some of it is manual, but it doesn't take that much of my time. But what's new to me, or what you've introduced me to, is Microsoft 365. And I've got like 5 licenses of this thing.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
use it on different systems. I got like 5 computers I work with, each serving a separate purpose. So, 2 are for production purposes only. One is for administrative purposes only. One is for blah blah. Anyway, so I got all these different licenses, and I'm wondering. I'm going to start looking into Microsoft 65 in the cloud. Thanks to your.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, be sure and direct message me. I'll be happy to talk with you about what, as you get into that, what you can set up. I do know that Leslie had a question for us. Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm like the other gentleman. I have Microsoft 365 as well, on my desktop and on my laptop and on my phone, but I never thought about or never knew how to connect them all together.
Yep. And it's built in. A lot of people don't. This is one of the biggest issues, is people are buying these things, they're paying for these tools, and they just don't realize the tool set that they have in front of them, because nobody's really sat down to explain what it can do. And what it is this is the direct replacement for Small Business Server. It actually can do everything and more than Small Business Server did, and in a much better degree than Small Business Server did. So yeah, if you have any questions, Leslie, you guys, I'm always on the channel for the group, for the CyberGuard group. I'm contributing content every week. Just direct message me, man, and I'll be happy to talk with you individually, or either chat, or we can do a Zoom if you want to talk more specifically. And I'll send you guys a link to my calendar so we can do that. Okay.
Great. 'Cause
It doesn't
like-
cost anything to talk to us. It only costs anything if we do anything for you. So we'd be happy to help you realize that and maybe help you put together a plan for your business. But we specialize in you small guys. We like this. We like watching businesses like yours grow. We're Kirby is our CEO, Kirby Atwood here. We are we're a 5-person company, man. We're small just like you guys, but we do a lot of business, and we've made a very efficient business in what we do, and we love what we do. So we're very passionate about it. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for attending. I'm going to have a segment up, a recorded segment. I do these 15-minute ones. I put them up on the weeks we don't do the live ones. So we'll have a new one up next week. That's just 15 minutes. So look out on the channel for it. I'll have this recording up probably in about a day or two. So I'll have the link posted up for you guys. And we'll have another one 2 weeks from today. We'll have another one, and we'll have the topic announced for that very soon within the next week or so. Okay. Hopefully see you then. Have a great
Sounds
week.
good.
Everybody stay out of the cold weather. And thanks for joining us.